It is a story we first brought you back in February. KWQC's Morgan Otier reporting that histoplasma is a fungus growing in the Midwest, sometimes causing serious infection and even death.
It's common growing in the Ohio River Valley and right here in the Mississippi River Valley where we live. We all breathe in the histoplasmosis spores, but the fungus affects some differently than others. In February, we shared the story of Cody Fry, a young Davenport man whose histoplasmosis infection turned deadly.
Every time we did go to the hospital, when he started coughing up blood, I could see in his face that he was worried. I mean, he would start crying. I never heard of the histoplasmosis fungus until it affected my son.
And Cody died last October, but his story prompted many of you to share your own struggles with this sometimes deadly infection. One local woman managed to avoid that outcome after doctors found an advanced histoplasmosis infection in her lungs.
I was in barns, I was in straw, I was out in the fields. I had much exposure to birds.
Connie Kramer calls rural Illinois home. She always has, even growing up to marry a farmer.
Yes, I was the right-hand man.
But that rural life she loves is also responsible for making her sick.
I developed a cough, and it just hung on. Some days it'd go away, and then it'd come back, and I just kept going like that, back and forth.
She didn't know it at the time, but Kramer was suffering from a histoplasmosis infection.
It's more concentrated, perhaps, in old places where there have been bats and birds living for a long time. That fungus particularly likes to live in that kind of environment.
Dr. Douglas Hornick is a lung specialist at the University of Iowa.
I see lots of patients with histoplasmosis. So it's really a Midwestern fungus, and all of us are probably infected with it at some time.
But some people get sicker than others, people like Kramer.
It's important not to let something like that go if it hangs on.
Eventually, doctors gave Kramer a chest x-ray and learned the cause of her mystery cough.
They saw the size and the shape of a peanut in a shell, is what it looked like.
It was some sort of mass growing larger inside her lungs, riddled with a histoplasmosis infection.
I was very scared because it was totally out of the blue other than the cough.
And here's some of that mass. They look like rocks, but they're not. They're calcifications removed by surgeons along with part of her right lung.
When I got histoplasmosis, they told me it was from bird droppings, and they disintegrate into the soil and then come up into the air. You breathe them, and then you start having problems.
The dangerous surgery was performed soon after her diagnosis. Then, after a 3-month struggle to breathe normally, Kramer created a goal for herself.
We had a family wedding, and my husband and I danced, and I told him I want to be able to dance at this wedding reception, and I did.
A long road, but Kramer feels lucky that doctors caught her histoplasmosis in time.
It's more or less a thing of the past, but it's always in the back of my mind.
Morgan Otier, KWQC TV 6 News.
Histoplasmosis is an infection brought on by a fungus growing in the Mississippi River Valley. It affects some people differently than others, even becoming deadly in rare cases.
So it's really a Midwestern fungus, and all of us are probably infected with it at some time.
Tonight, KWQC's Morgan Otier shares the story of a local woman who considers herself lucky after a histoplasmosis infection. That's because at first doctors thought something even more deadly was making her sick.
57-year-old Carol Tolley is a mother and grandmother. She's also a nurse. So when a chronic cough lasting several months got worse, she got worried.
I wasn't getting any better. I had intermittent fevers, constant cough. I coughed all the time.
Tolley drove herself to the emergency room.
Just thinking it was your typical virus, flu, whatever.
She knew her symptoms were serious, but she never imagined what she would hear next.
And it was actually the doctor there that first told me that it could possibly be lung cancer.
A very serious form of lung cancer.
I really felt that was my death sentence right there, because non-small cell lung cancer is very difficult to treat. It was extremely devastating.
While Tolley was preparing to tell her family the terrifying news, local doctors made plans for further testing.
Then they sent me to Iowa City so I could have a bronchoscopy with a needle biopsy.
Traveling to the University of Iowa hospitals is the only way Tolly could know for sure. Did she really have lung cancer?
We all walked in and you see all these cancer patients there, and all I could think was, that's going to be me. I was really scared.
But even before the results were in, Tolly's new doctor felt the initial diagnosis was wrong.
The doctor came in and she said, I really don't think you have lung cancer. She said, I really think it's histoplasmosis, it's not lung cancer.
She had an infection called histoplasmosis.
Really?
So she asked the doctor, how did she get this infection that, even as a nurse, she'd never heard of?
She said it's very common in the Midwest. It's common, by rivers. And I said, well, the river's right down the road for me, I guess.
She's not sick anymore, but Tolly says histoplasmosis altered her path for the better.
It just gave me a whole new outlook, and I just changed a lot of things about my life.
She also has some advice for people living in our area.
When your symptoms do not go away, you need to really make sure that whoever your physician is, they really need to check into it further.
Because you could be under attack by your own environment. Morgan OTA, KWQC TV 6 News.
When you breathe in spores from the fungus, it can cause an infection in your lungs. And as KWQC's Morgan OTA shows us, it can also affect your vision.
If I close my good eye and I put my hand like this, my hand's gone.
57-year-old Margie Schuler has trouble with her eyesight.
If I'm ladling out soup into a bowl, I've poured it right on my hand before. I've poured coffee right on my hand before.
Schuler has ocular histoplasmosis.
It's scary, really, really scary.
Histoplasmosis is a fungal infection that can affect your lungs, but occasionally the spores can travel up to your eyes.
These are little histoplasmosis scars.
Dr. Michael Howcroft is a retina specialist at Eye Surgeons Associates.
Ocular histoplasmosis syndrome is a condition that is fairly prevalent in the Midwest.
He sees a small but steady amount of patients with ocular histoplasmosis, an infection that creates scars on the retina.
If they do activate and you get one of these little blood vessels growing underneath the scar, then they can leak fluid or cause hemorrhaging and can have an effect on the vision. They can also lead to a scar like this that can, when it's in the very center, take away the central vision.
That's what's happening to Schuler.
Your central vision is the part that's really sharp.
And it's impacting her quality of life.
Like if I shut my good eye right now, I won't even see you.
She rarely gets behind the wheel of a car anymore.
When I hit the garage, that kind of did it for me. And I was backing out and my mirror hit the side of the garage.
Schuler will drive a few blocks to the grocery store, but that's pretty much all she's comfortable with.
Like 9 o'clock in the morning when everybody's at work and, there's little traffic. So, yeah, it's scary. I've hit signs in parking lots. I've never hit a car.
Her vision is distorted and her depth perception is off. To her, passing cars and trucks look like they're about to crash into her.
The semi's coming past, and then when it gets where it's up by us, it looks like the end of it's going over the hood of the car.
Schuler says she has one good eye right now, her left, allowing her to read and watch TV.
This one's the bad eye.
She's worried that soon they will both be bad eyes. A recent scan shows new deterioration in her left eye.
I just cried all day. And I couldn't eat for a couple of days.
If she loses central vision in that good eye, Schuler will only be able to see what's in her periphery.
I wouldn't really be able to see what anybody looked like. And I definitely wouldn't be able to read.
Still, Schuler is working hard to stay positive, even if she does lose central vision in both eyes.
I'll still be able to look out the window and see blue sky, but I'll still be able to see color and light.
And that's what Schuler is focusing on as she battles this environmental attack. Morgan OTA, KWQC TV 6 News.
Many of us are breathing in histoplasma spores, but not all of us have symptoms or an infection. For most people, a healthy immune system will kill that fungus quickly. But for anyone who notices a change in their breathing or eyesight, it's important to see a doctor.